Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andrew Clark, and in this video, I want to take some time to talk a little bit about the major scale. Now, before we get into it, I upload a new guitar video right here every single week, so if you like content like this, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Okay, so I know naturally as a guitar player, you probably have tried to avoid as much music theory as possible because, frankly, it's pretty boring. But there are a few concepts that can really help you unlock the fretboard, and if you want to be able to write your own music, play solos, improvise, and actually understand what it is that you're doing on the instrument, there are a few key concepts that are really worth taking the time to learn. Now, the major scale is one of those things, and that's because all Western music is essentially based off of the major scale. We always use it as a point of reference. So if you're not familiar with what the major scale is, you've probably heard of something called solfege before, and what that is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You might have learned it as a kid or something like that. And the notes that you sing in that little run are the major scale. For reference, it should sound something like this. Now, the scale is a lot more than just an exercise. When we talk about the key of a song, or when we talk about the chords in a song, when you learn how to play a song and you're playing G, C, E minor, D, whatever those chords are, they actually come from the major scale. So let's start right at the beginning. All the major scale is a 7-note scale. And that means that there's 7 notes before it arrives back at the note that it started at. Now, if we just played the notes and never skipped anything going up the fretboard, we would just be playing something chromatic. It wouldn't really have any musicality or anything like that. So to make this into a major scale, we have to skip notes. And this is where something called the major scale formula comes in. The best way to remember the major scale formula is to imagine it like a phone number. In Canada and the US, we have phone numbers where it's 3 numbers followed by a dash followed by 4 numbers. And if we use that format, it actually makes it a lot easier to remember because the major scale formula is 2-2-1, 2-2-2-1. So both groups of 2 and they end with a 1. 2-2-1 dash 2-2-2-1. And what those numbers will represent is how many frets you're gonna move. So 1 fret or 2 frets based on the numbers. Pretty straightforward, right? So starting with our open E string, that's our starting note. And then we apply the major scale formula. So we go 2, up 2 frets, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, and 1. We started on an E, we ended on an E. You can see up at the 12th fret, the double marker there. That means we've completed the octave and completed the E major scale. Now, obviously playing the scale along one string is not very useful when you're trying to play guitar and trying to actually use that scale. So we like to squish it down by going across multiple strings and then not having to move so many frets. So the position where you'd play that is up at the 9th fret here. This note right here on the G string, 9th fret G string, is the exact same as this, the open E string, high E string, so. And if we played that same interval pattern, the major scale formula 2-2-1, 2-2-2-1, but instead of moving up 1 string, we just spread it out across 3 strings, we would get this shape. So if you're not familiar with that little major scale shape yet from any of my improvising videos or anything like that, take some time to memorize it a little bit, internalize it. It's something that you're probably gonna be using a lot in your guitar playing going forward. So once you've got that little shape down, we're gonna talk about something called scale degrees. And this sounds way harder than it actually is. All it means is that we're gonna give each note in the scale a number. So yes, they all have note names, right? Inside of an E major scale, they all have a name. So you'd have E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. But we can also give each one of those a number. Now the numbers would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then obviously because this is the same note that it starts on, it's gonna be a 1. And understanding these scale degrees and thinking in scale degrees is essential to understanding how chords operate inside of a key. Now, we're not going to talk about that too much in this lesson. That will be for a future video. But all you need to know is number those notes and remember that those notes will have a number corresponding all the time no matter where you shift the scale. So if we took that scale shape and let's say we moved it all the way down to this note here, which is a C. So instead of an E right here, it'd be a C. So it would go like this. Now, the note names change, right? Obviously, we would have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C. Those have changed from our E, right? But if we use our scale degrees, they haven't changed. So we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And if you're listening, even though we're in a totally different position on the guitar, we're playing the exact same scale, and those notes operate the same way inside of this different key. So if you listen to it in E, you listen to it in C, they're essentially the exact same. Just to make sure you really understand it, I know it's a pretty straightforward concept, but again, with the scale degrees, if we want to move it into another position, let's say we move it in the middle somewhere, we can start it right here, let's say, on a D note. We can go, we have our E up here, our C down here, and then our D. And again, even though the notes have changed, we would have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, then D. We would still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. A big light bulb moment for me when I was learning how to understand music theory on the guitar was that you don't need to think about a scale for every single chord that's passing by. In most music, which is something that we call diatonic, all of the chords occur naturally within a key. Every single chord comes from one major scale. So when we're in the key of C major, every chord in that key comes from the C major scale. It's not like when we go to play an F or a G, we're switching to an F major scale and then a G major scale. It's just C major scale, and within that scale are all the chords from the key of C major. This is something I want to cover in depth in a future video because it does require a little bit of time to really wrap your head around and go through. But just know that understanding scale degrees and the major scale is something that's going to help you immensely because it's really not as complicated as a lot of people seem to think. Okay, so that's all I wanted to cover in this lesson. I know we didn't get into too much, but I just can't stress enough how important the major scale and these basic concepts really are when it comes to finding the key of a song, improvising, modes, communicating with other musicians, being able to quickly find the chords of a song just by ear. All of that comes from this stuff that I talked about in this video. So in future lessons, I'm going to be referencing the things I talked about here a whole lot. So I hope you found this video helpful. I know as a guitar player, it's pretty easy to ignore music theory. So I'm trying to get rid of all the stuff that you don't need to know and just tell you the stuff you do need to know. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. And again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video.